What up, Muggles? This is Fyrebyrd, and you're listening to the Dusty Caldron, where we talk about Harry Potter and the witchy world at large. Today's episode is another Ickle Firsties episode. We are coming back with Marina and Ridgeback, who are going to be reading Harry Potter number 2, The Chamber of Secrets. We're here with Marina. So, having just finished book 1, you're ready for book 2. What is the first thing you feel like you're going to see in book 2 that you didn't see in the movies?
So, the first thing, well, also just maybe this happens. I don't know. I have memory loss. It's been a long time since I've seen the second movie. And I obviously haven't read the second book yet. And so I know that, Malfoy comes up a little bit more. I feel like him and Crabbe and Goyle just always appear at the most inconvenient times just to be rude to Harry. But I feel like we're going to see a lot more of that. Specifically, I feel like there might be some weird rival or competition that's orchestrated by Malfoy to try to see who can get to the Chamber of Secrets first. Harry doesn't care about that, and was basically what I'm thinking. He obviously wants to get to the bottom of what's happening for the sake of Hogwarts, but I feel like once the whole Chamber of Secrets stuff comes out, I feel like Malfoy's somehow going to make it about him and how he needs to be the one to discover it or save the day or whatever it is that he deems that he needs at that point. Because it seems to me that there is a theme with him always trying to one-up Harry, but maybe not necessarily in the best ways. If Harry wants to save the day, it's not that Malfoy's evil and wants to do the exact opposite, but I think he just wants the attention, and he's gonna try to do whatever it is to get that, if that makes any sense. So if he lands on the decision to discover the Chamber of Secrets or how to unlock it or whatever the heck, that's what he's gonna try to do. Obviously he don't succeed, but that's my thought, is he's gonna, for whatever reason, throw it out there that he's gonna be the first to discover it, or he's gonna try to be involved, is my thought.
I think that's a really interesting idea. I'm curious, trying to envision the sort of competition between them. What do you see? Do you see him having a scoreboard that he keeps in his trunk? Or
no, I think it's really going to be purely just him running into Harry and saying some rude crap. One of my biggest annoyances with Malfoy and his whole family is that they're basically racists and hate people that are Muggle-born and have Muggle parents, and I feel like that's going to play into it, plus his, I don't want to say, necessarily, a nationalist perspective, but just his infatuation with being freaking Slytherin. I feel like, his whole family is, so, I guess it would make sense to have some, house pride about it, but I feel like Malfoy and his family just take it to a new level. So I feel like, especially because the Chamber of Secrets has everything to do with Salazar Slytherin, he's going to feel like I am the rightful person to be entrusted with this knowledge of the Chamber of Secrets. Why is it that you, who shouldn't be involved, basically, are involved? He definitely doesn't think Hermione should be there, and he just hates Ron. So obviously Ron's just guilty by association with Harry and Hermione. And he just hates the Weasleys as a whole.
Which I would argue is also why he hates Ron. There's definitely a family feud between the Weasleys and the Malfoys. I almost called them the Slytherins. I want to take a moment to put in a little disclaimer that we are not crapping on Slytherins.
Yeah,
Similar to how there are white people and there are people who happen to be white, there are Slytherins and there are Slytherins who happen to be racists. They're not the same.
Yeah, no, exactly. I definitely don't think all Slytherins are problematic, but that's literally, I will self-admit, only because I know two in real life who are nice to me. The only reason why I say that, though, is because when I watched the movies, I feel like there was definitely an overarching theme and idea that we're all equal, but the actions of the characters in the book did not display that. And I never saw a Hufflepuff go up to anybody and be like, Hufflepuffs are supreme. But I definitely saw that from the Slytherin house. To be fair, there probably are several Gryffindor and Ravenclaw who do as well. But the rivalry between Gryffindor and Slytherin is definitely what is focused on the majority of the time. And so I feel like that's kind of where the prejudice lies, is that even though Dumbledore and the teachers try to be, unbiased and try to give this illusion of everything is equal, we know it ain't. We know it is not. And even if there are Slytherin students, which we know there are, that are not evil and that are good, I feel like they're already going to have something against them with the teachers who are not associated with the Slytherin house, just based off, like, facts and prejudice. Like,
Absolutely.
Facts that pretty much all the Death Eaters be Slytherin and Voldemort was a Slytherin, but also the fact that that doesn't mean that just because you're a Slytherin that you're going to be evil. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's them tugging with a bias, but also, like, morality, and just being like, ethically, it's wrong for me to feel that way, because they're pretty much doing the exact same thing that those rude racist Slytherins are doing. You know what I mean? They're throwing the hate right back at them, and, like, neither of it's okay. But
Hard to agree. And this series is definitely biased towards hating Slytherins. I mean, there's actually plenty of evidence throughout the series of evil Hufflepuffs and evil Ravenclaws, evil Gryffindors, but we just focus on Slytherin, which, as a Slytherin, I find very frustrating.
Oh, I bet I would too.
Okay, what's your next prediction that you think you'll see in this book?
So my next prediction is Jenny's obsession with Harry turns into friendly adoration for being saved. And when I say obsession, it's not that she's really obsessed. I feel like she was acting like any 10-year-old when they meet a famous person for the first time. Like, in the first book, it was definitely like, you know, I don't know, how would I equivalent that? I don't know, like, if some 11-year-old saw Justin Bieber pre-stupid, they'd probably be, you know, extra excited about it. Or if Justin Bieber was the same age as them. You know, like when he first started, he was super young and like a teen. So that kind of thing. And if you just saw him at a random bus station, you'd be like, oh my God, that's Justin Bieber. Like, you know what I mean? Just here amongst us. Like, that's kind of how the vibe I got. But not in a, like, romance or sexual way. Just in a, like, I'm a 10-year-old, that's a famous person, awesome type of a thing. And now she's going to be attending school with Harry, so it's like a completely different ball game all of a sudden. But I feel like that, like, sort of distancing obsession type of a thing, which is not really obsession, like I said, it's how any kid would probably react. I think that definitely turns into more like friendly adoration as she gets to know Harry, plus the fact that she was saved by him. So I feel like it kind of flips into a more authentic and organic likeliness, if that makes sense, rather than just circumstantial.
So do you feel like that's something you're going to get primarily at the end of the book then, since a lot of it is tied to him? Okay.
Yep.
Do you think that it'll be weirdly obsessive, like, leading up to that? Like, so we know they're in the same house. Like, do you think she's creeping on him or anything?
Oh, no. I don't get lavender brown vibes. Let me... I get it as I'm now an 11-year-old, he's a 12-year-old, he's the best friend of my annoying older brother, so there's that, but it's also my older brother's best friend with a famous person. You know what I mean? But I don't think it's super obsessed. No, I think it's just she's reacting how anybody that age would react and how a lot of people at Hogwarts did. But the difference, though, at the train station, year prior, was that she wasn't at school. They're in public at a train station. It wasn't in a, like, super professional type of thing. So it was a very candid reaction. In comparison to school, I think she's going to really try to play it cool.
No, like, you can kind of prepare for it, right? Like, even if she was, like, totally obsessed with him, like, she could wake up in the morning and be like, okay, you're going to see Harry in the common room. Try to act normal. Like, she could pep talk herself, right? You can't pep talk for, oh my God, I just ran into Harry Potter in the middle of a train station. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Valid. Okay, I'm really interested to talk about that one after you've read the book. Okay, third prediction.
So, this just ties in with Slytherins again. I know you're going to roll your eyes about it, but it's not... Keep in mind, I don't believe this. This is my prediction for the book. I feel like there's just going to be an emphasis on how evil Slytherins are, primarily because Chamber of Secrets is associated with their founder. Like, obviously, we've talked about there is a theme of hating Slytherins and just making them the evil scapegoats, but I feel like it's going to be even worse because the Chamber of Secrets is in direct, like, alignment with Slytherins.
It's the primary plot device of the whole book. What do you think might be different in the book versus in the movie? Because I would argue that you see in the movie that there's a lot of focus on Slytherin.
I'm trying trying to think. I feel like, because I don't know a whole lot about the Chamber of Secrets other than there's that creepy basilisk that lives down there, and then what happens when they go into it. But I'm more just fantasizing what would be really cool and spoopy, but not what I think would actually happen. Like, before I read, well, I haven't read the second book yet, but, like, I feel like my assumption off the gate, if I didn't even see the movie, would be that there would be more than one snake. Not more than one basilisk, but maybe there'd be babies, or just, I don't know, someone would just find a snake in the hallway and they'd be like, that's really strange. And then, like, just planting little seeds.
That's suspicious.
That's sus. Or, like, someone would just find a random snake skin, like, on their trunk and be like, you know, we're not allowed to have those as pets. That's a little sus. Like, not saying the basilisk, just snake-related things or anything to do with the Chamber of Secrets. I feel like there's going to be a lot more nuggets placed of things that relate to it. Because I feel like there wasn't a whole lot of nuggets placed. Like, obviously, you know, we have a few petrified students. So that's how they find out something's up. And then there's, you know, the blood on the wall. And so now they're like, oh, there's a person with exposable thumbs. That's involved. Someone has thumbs. Okay.
They can hold a paintbrush.
Yeah. Oh
so
my
it's
goodness.
not a snake.
Yeah. Like, so, like, well, not even that it's not a snake, but it's like, oh my god, this is happening. Plus, we know it has to be a person because there's literal English written on the wall. But, like, aside from that, I don't remember.
Does that mean it has to be a person just because it's written in words? Think of all the creatures that could probably have opposable thumbs or be able to speak English.
Okay, but, like, I doubt I can't pronounce his name, but I doubt very seriously that one centaur guy just, like, came up in there and was like, let me just grab a paintbrush from the Muggle Studies room and get to work in Miss Norris's blood. Like, doubt.
especially because the centaurs are so very, like, let's stay separate from the humans.
Right.
That would be so jacked if he's like, I'm going to stay separate from the humans, except
this one time
I'm going to sneak in on Halloween and write a terrorist message on the wall.
Yep. Oh, I'm like, okay, who else has thumbs like that? And I'm trying to think of all.
House elves.
True. Wait, can they float? Can they, like, magically make themselves?
Yeah, they could levitate.
Okay, because I'm like, I know they're magical, but I don't remember 100% what they can do.
Fair.
I just know that they're usually cranky, wrinkly, and magical.
Peeves could totally write with stuff. Remember, he was writing with chalk in, I thought that was in book 1, wasn't it?
Yeah,
maybe
I guess,
it's book 3.
Because technically, like, he is a ghost person.
He's like a poltergeist. And
yeah.
if I remember my lore correctly, ghosts were once human. Poltergeists never were. They're evil spirits that were never human.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I mean, you know, that does make a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I just instantly thought, oh, it must be someone, like, a live human who did that. I didn't even think about the damn ghosts.
I mean, to be fair, you are fully following look for horses, not zebra logic. I'm not faulting you. I'm also not saying you're wrong. I'm just refuting the fact that it had to be a human because it was painted.
yeah, that's true. I'm not going to lie, though. The idea of... I keep trying to call him the horse teacher, but him sneaking in to find a paintbrush is still just makes me giggle. Especially because, can you just imagine the noise? Like, the little clopping, like, he wouldn't even have to be running to make any noise. You would just hear this, like, just light clopping in the distance. Like, how terrifying, though. Like, okay, so you know how sometimes the students sneak out, and Harry and them sneak out, and they're, like, under the invisibility cloak? Just hearing in the distance some freaking clopping. Oh, my God. How terrifying. Like, Harry hearing the snake voice is one thing, but... you physically being somewhere in the middle of the damn night when you're not supposed to be, so you can't really ask for help, and then hearing mysterious clopping. That's just a recipe right there.
Especially knowing that, like, there's not currently a centaur teacher.
Yeah, because he's not involved yet, right?
The fuck is following me? Like, I'm going to go get McGonagall. I'm definitely going to get detention, but this is not right. This is weird.
Right. Also, so... I have to have a question clarified because I guess technically another nugget is the snake talking to Harry. Mm-hmm. So one, does Harry know that he can talk to snakes, or he doesn't really technically have a clue? Because I know he talked to the snake in the zoo.
Yes. So I don't think I'm going to be giving too much away by talking on this point. He is aware that he had the ability to talk to snakes because of that conversation, but he's not aware that it's not
a normal thing,
that everybody can't talk to snakes, right? And then he knew he was talking to a snake in book 1 because he was physically looking at a snake and talking to it. In book 2, he's hearing a disembodied voice. So there's nothing to make him think, that's a snake. That's the reason I hear it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, because I'm like, that would be also really terrifying to just be about your day and then hearing there's a voice, especially if he doesn't, have that information about the whole snake talking thing necessarily completely wrapped around in his mind. Like, he doesn't know that it's associated with the wizard world at all, because he didn't know he was a wizard at that time. He just thought, I'm Harry, and I'm really weird. And weird things happen that I cannot explain. My life is weird. This is just how it is. I feel like that was just another thing for him. You know what I mean?
He just accepts that snakes talk. And so everybody knows that snakes talk.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. I just feel like that would be just so terrifying to hear a voice. I mean, I feel like if I was at a zoo and a snake talked to me, I would be shitting myself of happiness. Because I love snakes. But just a random voice in a hallway, are you kidding me? Like,
Of course you married a Slytherin. I love snakes.
I really do. I have a friend who started a snake breeding business, and I watched her first YouTube video on it. And it was labeled "Here are my balls" because she has 5 ball pythons.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's a nugget too. Is the voice, but it's not identified at the time that it belongs to a snake, and so I'm trying to figure out how are they going to tie it into Slytherin. But I feel like it's going to be like definitely once they realize it's the Chamber of Secrets and the professors. Don't they know what's down there?
Nope.
Or, no one does.
I shouldn't have answered that question.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I feel like Dumbledore would know what was down there, but maybe not. Who knows? It just boggles my mind that Hogwarts has so many secrets about it that even the faculty just don't know about. Like, to me, that is just...
It's nuts.
Insane.
Yeah.
And I also think, just to go back on the first book, that it's just... Like, I'm thinking to myself, how can a big old creature even get in there? I mean, maybe it was in there as a baby. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe I'll find out. But I think it's really funny, just from the first book, that Professor Quirrell let in that troll. And the kids were like, it's Snape! And just, like, the entire book was on this rampage of it's Snape. It just cracked me up, especially because I feel like when I was younger and the books were coming out, there was definitely it's Snape, he's evil. And now as I'm an adult, everyone's like, he is good, y'all stop picking on Snape. And it just cracks me up reading it as an adult and seeing this is the point of view of these children in this story versus this is the point of view of the internet. Yeah. It's very funny to me and comical.
And it's very polar on the internet too. So there's just as many people that are like, don't apologize for Snape. And like, I went through a phase of being pro Snape, but I've kind of learned more about psychology and stuff like that and really thought about, yes, does he have a redemption arc at the end of the series? That happens, right? Yes, it's true. But does that change the fact that he spent 7 years bullying children? No.
No, it really doesn't.
Does it change the fact that he willingly joined the Death Eaters? No, it doesn't.
No, it don't.
But yeah, this will be something we can dig into when you get to later books in the series.
I know. I feel like the next episodes are going to be tangents of me just discovering new things and being like, but how though?
Why is this a thing? The universe is tricky.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you've got your predictions. You are going to go off and read book 2, and in a minute we're going to sit down with Ridgeback and we are going to go through his predictions as well. You know the drill. We got to find out the predictions before they do it. Ridgeback, lay 'em on me.
All right. So let's see. So I have 3 predictions again, like we did before. And my first one is that I think the basilisk kills way more children in the book than it did in the movie. I think it's a murder machine. I think it's going to be awful. I think it's just lots of dead kids everywhere, spray painting the walls kind of a thing. I think I'm probably completely wrong, judging by the look on your face, but does it sound weird to say I kind of hope it is?
I love that about you. So the question that came to mind as you were saying this prediction
was, what's wrong with me?
No, it wasn't what's wrong with you. It was that I knew first of all, that we were soulmates because you're a murderino, obviously. No, my thought was, and you thought they left all the murders out of the movie? Like, I feel like that'd be a good thing to put in the movie. But it could be argued that maybe they showed it as a petrification instead of a murder on some of them because it's a children's movie. Mm-hmm. So I can kind of get on your logic train. I'm interested to talk about that one after you read the book.
Well, I thought about it, and it was just, you're right. I believe it's PG, which means they have to be very careful how they show death and murder. Like, you show too much blood and you jump up to an R, so you have to come up with different colored blood, so it's not red blood. Anything can affect the rating, so yeah, I'm sticking by that.
I think it's valid. I can get behind it. All right, what is prediction number 2?
All right, prediction 2 is a weird one. I feel like Voldemort is more relatable in the book, and how I mean by that is that in the movie, he's just kind of, he's the villain, even as when he's young, and he doesn't feel like anything but a villain. Like, my thing with villains, I think the best villains are the ones that we can relate to. We can see ourselves in that position given the circumstances they endured. They just made a different choice. It's, I'm going to put my geek hat on here for a minute, but it's like Magneto versus Professor Xavier. They both have the same idea, but just different ways to approach it, based on the experiences they've gone through. And I feel like in the book, I can see them working on Voldemort / Tom Riddle being someone we can understand how they got there. And it may not. I may be completely wrong. I guess that's what I'm really hoping for more than anything else, is that it's like, oh, I see how he got there. It was because of this or because of that, and things just happened. And it may not. But that's my prediction. I hope it will.
I think that's fair. Would you say that with Harry being 12, that you would expect to get like definitely the feeling of relatability, or do you think you would define it more as you think we'll get a lot more depth on who Voldemort is in this book?
I think we'll get a lot more on who Voldemort is. What I've seen from the movies, Voldemort is just the bad guy. We see all of his nifty ways and things he tries to do to kill Harry, and there's never really a moment where we understand more about him. And some people are fine with that. Some people are okay with that. And, if it moves the story along and that's the way the story wants to be told, where it's just this mythical beast and we never understand their motivations, that's fine. I just would like to see it because that's what I think drives us, is why did they do it? Why? That's why we have all these true crime podcasts everywhere, that's why we have fan theories, and and most fan theories are like, I want this to happen. But I mean, good fan theories are good people who are theorizing stuff are like, but why did this happen? What was the motivation? Because sometimes they leave it to you to figure out. So
I like that. And I think it's really interesting that prediction kind of harkens back to something that Marina was talking about in the first book. She was talking about Professor Quirrell, so different, but it was about like, why are they evil? Are they truly evil? Like, is there a motivation for the behavior? So I'm interested to see kind of what your thoughts are about Voldemort after book number 2.
Okay.
What's that last prediction?
The last one is one that's near and dear to my heart because I hate spiders, and I have a feeling that the encounter with the spiders in the forest is probably going to be way scarier in the book. Because if you're worried about a PG rating, the one thing I think you could do and keep it is push the irrational fear we all have of spiders by just making them be spiders, creeping around, dropping down on your shoulder, chasing you at speeds that you aren't prepared for them to deal with. They got fangs, they're clicking their fangs together, there's venom dripping, there's all those eyes that just, why do they have them? We know why they have them, it's a miracle. No, it's actually science, so they can see in multiple directions, I guess. But they're terrifying, and I think if you're going to push anything being scary in the book that you can safely push and make it safe for young readers, it would be the spiders. And I think the spiders are way more terrifying because they were scary in the book, but in the movie, scratch that in the movie. I think the book would be a perfect place to make them just insanely terrifying, and just feeling them closing in on you.
I think that's fair. I think that's going to be the hardest one for us to talk about in like the recap after you read the book, because subjectively they will probably be scary to you even if it's not that scary of a scene because of how much you hate spiders. Like, as a person who really doesn't give a flying fig about spiders, I'm like, oh no, I disagree with that one. But this is you, so I know it'll be different, and I'm, because I love you so much, not going to put you on blast and tell my very favorite spider story about you. I'll just leave everybody wondering about what that could possibly be.
Oh, no. Well, it's nice to know that prediction basically has already come true.
Yep.
So I win on that one.
You win.
I've scored some points. I put the ball in the goal. I caught the snicket or whatever. It's not a snicket. That's another book.
It's a snitch.
It's a snitch, yeah. If I caught snicket, that would be weird because he would stop telling his stories.
Right? Isn't he the guy that, like...
That's Lemony Snicket,
takes the orphans in or something?
No,
or is he
no.
just the narrator? I haven't read this series.
Count Olaf. Olaf. He's the one that's the narrator.
bad guy.
He's Olaf is. Snicket's the narrator. Yeah.
Okay.
So if I caught Snicket, it'd be really confusing.
Yeah.
And the series would have just stopped.
That's a weird crossover fanfic that I don't want to read.
I don't know. That's an amazing tangent, though. We effortlessly went from Harry Potter to Lemony Snicket. I'm impressed.
Go us. All right. Well, those are your 3 predictions. You're going to scuttle off and read book number 2, and we'll...
Scuttle, really?
I had to do it.
Really scuttle off like a spider?
Exactly.
Is that what we're
like
talking about here?
I am also secretly hoping a rope of silk will be hanging out of your ass.
Stop. What? The doctor said that would clear up with time.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on Front Street like that.
HIPAA laws. Come on.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, we'll see you soon.
All right, see you soon.
Okay, we're back with Marina. She's just finished reading the book, and we're going to follow up on what her predictions were and whether or not they came true. So let's start with the first one. You predicted that Malfoy would be much more involved in the book and maybe even start a competition with Harry about who could find the Chamber of Secrets first.
So I feel like I didn't get that right, but at the same time, Malfoy was definitely more annoying in the book than he was in the movie. There was definitely like more of a presence there where we see this kind of weird rivalry between the two all the time. And it's like, I feel like Malfoy doesn't even care about what goes on in the school until it's apparent that Harry cares about it. And then all of a sudden he has to be involved. So I don't think my prediction was correct. I think he was more like, if anything, congratulating whoever it was, because he was super down for all of the what are they called, muggle-born wizards and witches to leave. So yeah, didn't get that one right.
I feel like there was, like, while what you were saying, like, competition-wise was wrong, you still got a little bit of an essence of it, because there is a segment of the book where Malfoy is allowing people to believe that he is the heir of Slytherin. He's not contesting the fact. And so then he has sort of, like, a jealousy about him when people are like, oh, wait, I think Harry is... So it's not, like... where he sought out a competition, but I do feel like there actually was a little bit of competition there. One-sided, obviously, because Harry has no interest in being the heir of Slytherin or having people think that. But so I think you actually are a little bit more right than you're giving yourself credit for.
Oh, well, yay.
Okay, so your second prediction was actually that Ginny's obsession with Harry would become more of a friendly adoration after he saves her. How do you feel after reading the book?
I'm gonna go with no. Like, it's not that I didn't get the vibe that she was like, oh my god, my savior, you know, but I still am like, there was a lot of Ginny fangirling over Harry in book 2, and so now it kind of starts making more sense when they end up married later, because watching the movies, there is nothing between Ginny and Harry at all, and then all of a sudden it's, oh, by the way. So I feel like these books are setting up the seeds for what's to happen later, versus the movies don't plant those seeds, really. There's a lot of stuff that happens. It's just, well, this is how it is now.
Definitely. Bonnie Wright got a raw deal because so many of the scenes that establish really Ginny's character and also establish like the steps leading into a relationship just don't exist in the movies. And I get that you can't put every scene from the book in the movies, but if you're going to lead to a happily ever after with the savior of the world and Ginny marrying each other, maybe drop some hints along the way, not just like, oh, let me tie your shoe for you and randomly kiss you in the room of requirement.
Right, though.
But I would argue, even though it's not described, you were 100% right on this prediction. Because in the beginning of the book, she is so just completely obsessed with him. She can't function as a human. She like sticks her elbow in the butter. She runs off red face. She sends that freaking Valentine to him.
Yo.
And then after this, we see that she definitely still like talks to him and stuff in book 3 and going forward, but she's not as obsessed. So I think it did actually like humanize him a little bit more to her, which is interesting because you would think it would be more likely to give her a hero complex towards him.
Right.
But no, I think it was like, okay, I know this person. He's a friend of the family. I don't need to be like totally obsessed with him like he's a celebrity.
I can stop acting like Hermione just met freaking Lockhart.
Yeah.
Gosh, that whole thing just irked me to my core. Like, her liking him in any way, which, to be fair, like, we know what we know and she doesn't, but still, I was just like, no, don't fall for it the entire time.
We all had dumb crushes as children, though.
That's
like,
true.
Let's be real. She was 12, 13 in this book. I think she turns 13 in September.
That's
so
true.
She's 13 for the majority of the time that she has a crush on him. Did you like anyone intelligent when you were 13? Because I didn't.
Right. And he does say that he has a pretty good wardrobe. So, I mean, he has some stylistic things aesthetically going for him, I suppose. So, I get it.
Fair enough. Okay, and your final prediction was actually that there will be a big emphasis on how evil the Slytherins are because of the chamber being opened. How do you feel about that one?
I feel like I was right. Like, it seems like there's a theme of the Three Musketeers, who I refer to as Ron, Hermione, and Harry, being like, okay, whatever the bad thing that's happening in the school, we're just going to look at the Slytherins because they are the obvious bad people. And to be fair, the Chamber of Secrets was created by a bunch of Slytherins, so, like, in this case, contextually, it does kind of make sense to be like, okay, it's the heir of Slytherin, they're probably in Slytherin, it's a Slytherin-made chasm or chamber, whatever the heck. Like, it does kind of make sense to look their way, but it's not warranted to just start casting blame on random rude Slytherins. I will say, though, for Malfoy, that's super fair to cast the blame, because he doesn't deny that he's the heir of Slytherin. He's been rude this whole time, and he's boasting about the freaking Muggle-born wizards and witches going down. Mm-hmm. And he even goes as far as to wish that Granger dies. So, like, I feel like to cast blame on him specifically, super warranted and fair, but it's like nobody does. Everyone's just like, it must be Harry because he whispered to that snakes. Yeah. Like, that whole scene upset me a lot because I thought it was obvious that he was calling it away because it obviously didn't attack him. But everyone's like, oh no, we thought you were egging it on. And I'm just like, freaking middle schoolers.
It's also just this really interesting leap of logic, right? So we're saying, okay, he's setting this snake on the kid. He must be the heir of Slytherin. At this point, no one knows that the beast is a snake. So why are we jumping immediately to he's the heir of Slytherin, not he's a just like an asshole? Because
Right, though. Also, the whole snake scene reminds me of, like, in middle school when there would be a fight and everyone would gather around and yell fight. That's kind of what I imagined, but in the wizarding world with this snake. And no one's really yelling fight, but I feel like they think that that's Harry's motive here, is to start some kind of weird brawl with this snake. And I don't know, just everyone blaming Harry for it just really upset me reading it. I just felt really bad for him. But I don't think it's warranted to just assume that all the Slytherins are bad either, though. Especially if they're not. Them Slytherins as a whole aren't giving anybody any reason to. But I could see why they would jump to Malfoy for sure.
I can definitely agree with that. I was just thinking about how you were saying, like, a schoolyard fight where, like, you know, they all circle around. And what is fascinating to me is that I agree with that, but then it's like the weirdest school fight you're ever going to see, right? Because do you ever, like, if you were envisioning a school fight, would you picture, like, the second grade teacher giving one of the fighters tips before he tried to punch the other kid? Because that's basically what happened. Like, Snape went up to him and he was like, cast this spell. Like, that's messed up. I get it, but I mean, it was dueling club. They're supposed to be teaching them to duel. I guess you could make a case that he's not being a bad person at that point, but it just feels off.
It feels so off. It does not meet the vibe check. Honestly, it really ticked me off. Like, aside from Lockhart's shenanigans and Malfoy's blatant disregard for human life, that probably upset me the most. Because to me, not that I have any experience fighting anybody or any wizarding experience, but to me, I thought, why won't you teach them some beginner spells and then they can practice dueling? Why would you just last minute be like, well, since y'all are only like 9, let's give you this one spell that Harry's not going to know how to counter. You know what I mean? So it just seemed very favoriting. But I think you're probably going to see a theme in the series of certain heads of houses favoriting people. Like, I feel like it's very obvious that Snape favorites Malfoy. But I feel like, in a weird way, it's not necessarily because he likes Malfoy. I think it's because he looks at it as his duty to kind of play both sides, if that makes sense.
I could definitely see that. And I could definitely see just having to be like the lone defender of anyone in the Slytherin house, because people are very hateful towards it. Even like people who have read the series and you would think would have like critical reasoning skills are like that. I was recently presenting at a Rotary meeting actually, and we were having a tech difficulty while my slide deck was being put up. So I was just taking some questions while we figured that out. And in my intro, someone had mentioned that I do a Harry Potter podcast. And so one of the questions that came from them while this was happening was, what's your favorite house? And I said Slytherin, and they looked like I had just said I worship the Nazi party. Like, and it just shows like the lack of any reasoning skills applied to any of the houses, and that like no one group of people is going to be solely evil. I ended up saying that like this is a lot to unpack, and I'd love to talk to you after the meeting, because it was way too much to try to get into why Slytherin is not completely evil before presenting on ADA transition plans.
For real though. And like, you could sit here and pick apart any house, like just like with any group of people, everyone's gonna have their bad qualities and good qualities. It's like when people find out I'm a Hufflepuff, either they I think the word's infantilize. Yeah, they infantilize me, and they're like, oh, that's adorable, so fitting. Or they're just like, they kind of give me this look like, you're the miscellaneous house. Like, you're the others. And I'm like, aw. So it's either one of those reactions, but I'll take the that's lame over the oh my god, you must be evil reaction for sure.
I was re-listening to some of the stuff that we've recorded, because you know I've got like different people in each episode, and I was realizing like, you know, we all have this perception that everybody's in Gryffindor, everybody's in Slytherin. Except for Cooey, every single person that I've had on the show is a Hufflepuff, so statistically that would mean the majority of people are falling into the Hufflepuff house, so the Hufflepuff hate does not make sense to me.
I do hope that later in the books we see like more stuff from Hufflepuffs and Ravenclaws. Well, I know that there are a few of them that kind of make it into the main part of the story, so I'm interested to see if we learn more about that.
Fair enough. Welcome back. I'm here with Ridgeback. So let's start with your first prediction that you made when we were last speaking. You said you thought that we would see the Basilisk kill more students in the book. What do you think?
From what I read, I don't think we did. I think we saw about the same amount, and we didn't actually see him kill anyone either. I mean, everyone ended up being fine, just like they were in the movies. Like Mrs. Morris, all those guys, they were all fine. Camera Kid, I can never remember his name off the top of my head.
Colin Creevey.
Creevey, that's right. I mean, it seemed like really nearly Headless Nick. Hermione. No, there was one more. Or was there? There was Hermione, and then there was a girl who was with Hermione.
Penelope Clearwater.
And I don't think she got hit in the movie.
I think she's completely absent from the movie.
Yeah, that was the one I was like, oh, that girl got hit. But no deaths. And, you know, I, being a longtime Stephen King fan and lover of horror and sci-fi and sci-fi fantasy, I was a little disappointed.
I mean, so each book gets progressively darker and progressively more adult. Like, it kind of grew up with those of us who started reading it when it first came out. So it makes sense that in the early days of book 2, we're not seeing a lot of darkness. I would say like, not only did this end up being wrong, but it's actually the reverse, right? Because less people were killed than the first time the chamber was open. I guess not less people were killed since the movie was watched, but yeah, I remember thinking that was a really funny prediction because I was like, no, that's never going to happen. But I guess you could argue that an attempt was made because ultimately, if Harry did not appear in the chamber, Ginny would have died.
Yeah. And they definitely didn't, and he definitely didn't release the basilisk just to go freeze them. He was hoping the basilisk would kill some kids, and I feel like at some point Tom Riddle has to be like, man, this is the worst weapon I could have chosen to attack Hogwarts with because it is literally useless at killing people.
He would need to be more self-aware because you could argue he is the worst villain ever. All of his attempts on Harry's life are completely bumbling and ultimately fail. And like, it's a comment on Voldemort that they're failing, not a comment on how great Harry is, because Harry is using the same spell that he learned in book 2 for the entire series to defeat Voldemort. Voldemort's just an idiot.
Yeah.
Like,
I started seeing him less as like Darth Vader and more like Dark Helmet, like the dude from Spaceballs.
Yeah.
He has a giant freaking helmet, and he's kind of a horrible leader, and everyone has to stop to explain everything to him. I mean, Riddle does have his moments, but like the plans have just been like, I feel like it's just because he doesn't have a friend. Like, we all know Voldemort has no friends. He's like, I'm big and scary, but he's ultimately Michael from the freaking Office.
yeah, yeah.
Like, nobody really stands up to him. They try to steer him the right way, but he's like, somehow,
I know it's right.
I know it's right. I've been to prison. Toby's a killer, and we're still out on that one.
Yeah.
But
I feel Toby was the Scranton Strangler.
Yeah, I feel like Voldemort is right. I think you're right. I think Voldemort's just this. He seems scary. I mean, when he gets going, finally, he starts like offing people left and right. It's like, okay, this guy's serious.
No, Sirius Black is serious.
Oh, so funny.
Sorry.
That was good. But it takes him like finally. Maybe it's because he's got all these Horcruxes split up. Like,
maybe he lost a little bit of his brain every time he split his cell.
Yeah, like the part that went to Harry was like his ability to plan and foresee outcomes. Like, maybe he was a great chess player, but he gave it to Harry, and we all know Harry doesn't use it. So Harry's got it sitting in the back by his comic book somewhere or something. So Voldemort's just like, I have this great plan. We will come after him with a spoon. And everyone else is like, but that's a horrible silence.
I like rusty spoons.
I like rusty spoons. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And I just wanted to take a second and comment on, we can at least appreciate that even though Voldemort's like trying to ruin the world, he values education. He always waits until after Harry has finished a full year of education before he tries to kill him.
Yeah, it's like now are you good enough?
Have you leveled up? Like,
yeah, he like waits. He just like wait. Is he graduated yet? He's still packing lunches? No, not yet.
Nope, not yet. All right. So this conversation about Voldemort is great because your second prediction was that Voldemort will be more relatable than in the movie.
Yeah, relatable to people who like Michael in The Office, really. I mean, or like Spaceballs, because I wasn't really terrified of Voldemort, even when Riddle's got like, oh, I'm going to kill Ginny, and it's like, okay, no, you're not. Like, even though having seen the movie, it's like, no, Harry's going to stop you because you're an idiot. Because you're not put all together yet. You're missing pieces. Mm-hmm. You're like an incomplete Lego.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it almost looks good. But something's wrong.
Something's off.
Yeah, I thought... sorry. I was going to actually answer your question. I never really... I wanted him to be relatable. I never felt like he was more relatable. Ultimately. Because, you kind of... In order to relate to him, you've got to kind of understand what he's going through. And you're shielded from that with the book. I mean, you know outcomes, but you're still not seeing, even when he explains things in the end, the character's not making any effort. He's just like, I'm the bad guy. Ha ha ha. So it's like,
look how smart I am.
Yeah, he starts monologuing and you're just like, oh, we've seen this.
I was monologuing.
I watched this on X-Men.
So I think in order to make someone more relatable, you have to humanize them.
Yeah.
And I don't think we get successful humanization of Tom Riddle really ever, but we don't even get close to it until book 6. The one piece that does like humanize him slightly in this book, I would say you're still true to say that this prediction's not correct, because the prediction is made under the premise that it wasn't in the movie, but it is in the book. But this was in the movie as well, where we do get that little tidbit about how he doesn't want to leave Hogwarts and like go home for the summer, and is upset that like the school is going to get closed because of the deaths, and that's why ultimately he frames Hagrid. The death singular.
Oh, I missed
Sorry.
that. I missed that.
So we do get this little inkling of humanization, but it doesn't make him relatable. It's like, that's not relatable to be like, oh, I might have a bad summer because I murdered someone. Let me do this thing that makes sure that my murder doesn't impact me. Like,
I guess if it makes him relatable if you're used to committing crimes.
yeah.
Then he's very relatable. It's like, oh
People
God, he
in
doesn't want to get
Azkaban
caught.
totally get it.
Yeah, they're on his page, they're on his level. They're catching his vibe.
They're probably there because they caught his vibe in the 80s. Okay. And your final prediction was that the encounter with the spiders in the book was going to be a lot more terrifying.
I feel like it was. I felt like the way, and I actually was impressed that how the car was more involved in the book too. I thought that was actually really cool. I thought the car had more of a character arc, really. But I was actually, I was like reading that. I was like, oh gosh, this sounds awful. Like I was thinking of what I saw, picturing what I had in my head from what the universe wrote. And I was a little more scared of what I was reading in the book than what I saw in the film. So I think that one was enough for me to feel like I was right on that one, because I definitely thought it was scarier in the book.
I definitely agree. And like, full disclosure, it's been a hot minute since I watched the second movie, but I don't think that they actually explored where like Aragog was going to feed them to the spiders in the movie, but that is explored in the book. So just on that premise alone, it's scarier.
In the movie, though, he actually says, all my children are hungry and I can't just...
Oh, okay.
But I don't think he says it in the book. I didn't think he said it in the book. I thought he just kind of was like...
I'll give it to you. So
I'm not sure.
Just like... hate on me, but
maybe it was
I
both.
actually hate book number 2. So like with the series, I've read the series like probably in the triple digits, but book 2 I don't read every time I reread the series because I hate that book.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't like it.
I didn't know that you hated book 2.
Yeah.
Why do you hate book 2?
I just found it very boring, and I don't know, which is funny because now you think about all of the camping scenes that are in book 7, like that's boring. But it's never sat with me right. And so like I look forward to going back and reading book 4. I look forward to reading book 3. I'm like, book 2. So I'll like kind of just skim through if I'm doing a reread of the entire series, not actually sit and read the book. So maybe I should, because I really thought that eating them thing was in the book. But you just read it, so I believe you that it wasn't.
I think when I read Argog, I didn't feel like I read anything different. So I almost wonder if it's in both. But if I can interject other fandom, I mean, I think every one of them has that. I think there's always a book that drags, and it's usually somewhere that starts hovering towards the middle. And I'm not sure what it is. Stephen King has it with the Dark Tower series, and you might get hate for me for this, but I actually always felt like Wizard and Glass was a decent book, but it really that was the one book reading that series that I had a really hard time getting through it. It took me a long time to get through Wizard and Glass, and there's lots of good stuff in it. It just takes you a long damn time to get through it because it just feels like it drags at points, and you're just like, ugh, like it's just like a bad work assignment. So I feel like a lot of them run into that. I think like Lord of the Rings. Oh, here comes the hate. Here comes the hate. Here we go. Fellowship of the Ring is hard. When I read Two Towers, I was just like, whoa, here we go. This is great. And then I don't think I ever got to read Return of the King. So I can't fully say that it's just that. But like that one, it's like Fellowship is like 3 books in one. So it's like somewhere in there, the middle is dragging again.
Yeah. I will protect you from the hate because I'll lay down the real uncomfortable sentence of That is a trilogy, 3 books long about taking a walk. The whole thing's boring. The movies are good. The books can suck it.
That is a common knock it gets, because they make it on, like, I've seen comedians do it. It's like, it's 3 books about taking a walk.
No.
Like, oh, watch out, here comes things. Yeah, let's keep walking. And it's like, yeah, a walk.
Yeah.
It's the most interesting walk I've ever seen, but it is still a walk.
And I'm not gonna bash anyone who likes that series. I'm not a fan.
So much hate coming.
I'm sure.
It's just everyone's gonna be putting on their rings and their little dwarf costumes, and the hate will be real.
I think I can outrun you.
If you're a dwarf, I'll cut that. Because that ventures into some bad territory if I say that.
Fair. Okay. Overall, what'd you think comparing book to movie?
That's interesting. I wish that car stuff in the forest would have been in the movie. I felt like that would have been really cool for that scene. All in all, I think I have to kind of side with you on this. I think I like the movie more than I like the book. It took me a long time to get going on the book, and then, like, trying to read it, there was that whole, everything at the beginning was, I don't know. Book 2, I thought book 1 was more interesting than book 2. And I thought that I enjoyed the movie of book 2 more than I enjoyed a movie of book 2 more than the book of book 2. Whereas with 1, I felt like there was kind of like them both equally. But I don't know, something about 2, I don't know, it's weird.
It's got important setup information. There's a lot of stuff that we call back to in books 6 and 7 that comes from book 2. So I'm not saying, like, exile book 2 from the series, but I just didn't like it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Fair. Alrighty. Well, thank you for tuning in. If you're jonesing for more witchy goodness between episodes, you can check us out on Instagram at DustyPog. Dusty Pog.
Dusty Pog Caldron.
We're starting a new one. On Instagram at the Dusty Caldron Podcast. On the Facebook group page of the Dusty Caldron Podcast, it has a "the" in it. Or email us at dustycaldronpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our website, www.dustycaldronpodcast.com. Or subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening if you want to hear more. And remember, the books and the movies are talking about the same universe, but not necessarily the same storyline at all. And it's really interesting to watch someone who's never read the books but has seen the movies kind of come along for the journey that the rest of us Potterheads have already been on. And last but not least, don't forget to stir whatever you've got brewing in your cauldron right now. Bye!
Bye.